What is up, guys? We are back for another edition of the DFS Power Hour, though we are not talking DFS right now because it is the off season. We are covering MFL10s. We have covered quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers so far, and we are now working our way to tight ends. And I am joined today by Tyler Beaker, who I should let Scott in the background of Elliot's computer introduce as Tyler Bucher.
Hi, brother.
And Elliot Christ. Tyler, what's going on, man?
How's it going, Johnny?
Elliot, dude. You
He came over. We worked on a little article today, and he insisted that he started off the show by flipping you off. So I had to let him sit here stealthily.
I bet he was upset that we were starting late, which is generally his MO.
Yeah, I mean, shouldn't he just be waking up and eating Thai food right now and messaging someone on Tinder? Isn't that what 10-11 is for at night?
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's usually when Scott starts to put on his pants so that he can make it to the bar by midnight.
It's a process.
Yeah, man. So, you guys have started on some new sites this year. Elliot, where are you writing this year?
For Dynasty, I'm going to be on DLF. For DFS stuff, I'm going to have a podcast over at TFA. Still going to be contributing to PFF all the time. And then once draft season comes around, I'll be back with NDT and Bleacher Report contributing there as well.
Yeah, you guys do so much. Tyler, I know you're on a few this year as well. Where are you at?
No, I've done the exact opposite. I've condensed from 4 sites down to 1, just a Pro Football Focus Fantasy.
So just PFF for you now.
Yep, it's easy as hell.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I'm condensing as well. But it did make it easy for me to write in the description since you guys both wrote for PFF. So, Elliot, I didn't write any of your other ones in there. Sorry, man.
It's okay. I'm willing to forgive you.
All right, guys. So we are going to cover some tight ends. But first, Elliot, I want to let you pour one out for your boy, Mike Williams. Has anything changed for you on Mike Williams since the news that surgery is a possibility, which I think was always a possibility?
No. I mean, as you so elaborately put it on Twitter, nothing has changed. I mean, he had a herniated disc. I mean, that's not going to heal itself overnight. Surgery is always a possibility for that. I mean, I'm no medical doctor, but I know that back injuries are nothing to joke with, but it also doesn't mean that he can't have a career. I still loved him as a prospect coming out. He didn't have the back injury concern in terms of herniated disc. But I'm really hopeful that he can be healthy and show his talents on the field so a certain few people in this world can shut up. If you don't know whose view I'm talking about, I don't know what to tell you.
Tyler, you got any strong Mike Williams thoughts?
Don't sell him for dirt cheap in Dynasty. If you paid the first-round price tag for him this year, don't sell him for cheap. Hold on and ride it out.
Dude, it's crazy. Brian Malone posted I guess he polled everyone on where they were taking Mike Williams earlier in the season. He must have done a new poll. And it's people don't value him at all right now. It's pretty wild. But
you can get him for free right now, I would say. You
pretty
can
much
probably get him for a second, 2019 second, or 2018 second. I'm sorry, but the crazy thing is, whenever we're in this time of year, there's such little amount of information. I mean, the Cardinals started training camp today, so that'll be exciting, and we'll actually have some real news to go on. But every time there's one player that has anything go on, all of Twitter explodes and talks about it because there's nothing else to talk about. So Mike Williams' back injury is going to be the number one thing talked about, and it's going to make the most people panic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the other big news is that Chris Johnson was signed by the Cardinals, though. So I'm just waiting for ESPN to let us know that he's going to be the starter. But we are going to move into tight ends. I think this year is interesting because we sort of have an actual big three in the sense that Gronkowski is not necessarily sitting in that top tier all by himself like he usually is. Kelsey is essentially moved into that tier with him, and Jordan Reed is close enough that I think you can consider them the top three. I prefer Reed by far on ADP out of the three of those, but we'll get into that in a minute. What are you guys doing with those three? Are you drafting any of them? Are you avoiding any of them? Tyler, what are you doing with these guys?
As of now, I'm in 35 MFL10s. My goal is to get up to 50 for the end of the year. That's what I did last year. And Gronk is tied as one of my most owned players. So I'm all about Gronk. You're currently getting him in the mid-second round. When he played his 5 full games last year, he had 5 for 109, 2 and 1, 4, 93 and 1, 5, 109, 1, and then 3 and 56. So 4 out of those 5 games, you're getting top-end tight end 1 production. He's got an 11% touchdown rate over his career. He's just a different player when he's healthy and on the field. 69 total touchdowns in 88 games. There's no reason why you should fade Gronk, in my opinion. I don't think his price tag is that unreasonable middle of the second.
Do you have any concerns about them having a ton of mouths to feed this year?
There's that possibility, but I'm of the belief it's going to be a scorched earth 2007 Patriots campaign where Brady just lights up the league. So I'm not buying many of the individual pieces aside from Gronk and then Hogan and Malcolm Mitchell later because they're dirt cheap. But Gronk and Brady, I have no problem with buying at their ADP.
But Tom Brady's 40, and you can't be good when you're 40. I see that all the time, for the record. I'm not being serious. Tom Brady is clearly the exception to the rule. Are
you in on Gronk, Elliott?
Yeah, I mean, my problem is I continue to get draft positions where it doesn't make sense for me to take him. I always seem to end up picking last or first in all these things. So I like starting off with a receiver and running back, especially running backs. They seem to dry up real quickly. But Gronk, I mean, last year in the 5 games he was healthy, like Tyler was talking about, he averaged 3.97 yards per route run, which is absurd. Julio Jones led the entire NFL, or all wide receivers, with 3.13 over the season. I mean, Gronk is now thought of as a huge injury risk, which makes sense. I mean, the back injury, and he missed time last season. But the 2 years before that, he played 15 games in both seasons, caught 72 and 82 passes for 1,100-plus yards and 11-plus touchdowns. I mean, that's legitimate wide receiver production out of a tight end, which is really hard to get. Even though there are more mouths to feed, he's the best. I don't want to say best mouth. That sounds terrible. But wow, now I don't even know how to describe it. But he's the best. He's the best talent of all the options that Brady has to throw to. I mean, Edelman is great. Cooks is great. But Gronk, if he's single covered, is open. If he's double covered, he's still pretty close to open. You need to triple cover him to stop him. And there are all these other options that I think it may even open up more for Gronk. And then the exciting thing about Gronk is that he's not like a lot of other tight ends where he doesn't get big plays down the field. I mean, 30% of his targets were 20 or more yards down the field. There are only 2 other players in the NFL who had 20 or more percent, and one of them is Ladarius Green. He's not even in the NFL anymore. So I think his ceiling is still the highest of any players.
I agree with that, and I think he is a much better pick than Travis Kelce, which I think, I like Kelce a lot this year, but I have a hard time paying, an ADP of 29 when Gronk's going like 21, 22. I think there's just, the equity difference between the two of them for the draft cost doesn't make much sense to me. If Gronk was still a first-round pick, then I would be okay with Kelce. And then at the same time, I think Jordan Reed is a guy I'm taking more than Kelce as well. And for full disclosure, Gronk and Reed are tied for my most owned tight ends, along with Eric Ebron, that we'll get to. But I'm pretty much out on Kelce in MFL 10s. I can't take him beginning of the 3rd round. I have fears that the Chiefs are just going to be bad offensively. And I don't think them losing Macklin is as big of a boost to Kelce as people seem to think it is. I mean, do you guys think he's worth like a late second, early third round pick?
One thing I will say with the Macklin is that when Macklin didn't play that 4-week span, he had 36 targets in that span, so 9 a game, which is elite. They don't really have a lot of other options. Most of his stuff is in the middle of the field, so his efficiency of catching 85 or 114 targets could stay the same. If he gets the target boost with no Macklin, I mean, he's better than Tyreek Hill. He's the best option they have. He could be force-fed targets. I think his ceiling is really high. I have him on one team right now, and it's because he went 3-11. And I was like, okay, that works for me. I like Gronk more than Kelce, but I do get Kelce's upside.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, he did go on an insane tear but that his tear was essentially 6 games last year. The rest of his games, he was essentially, like a tight end 2 or, low tight end 1. So I get the fact that he has, 100-yard one, although I don't really think he's a multi-touchdown upside guy because I don't think Alex Smith is going to be putting multi-touchdown games on the board all that often. So I think that hurts him. This is a guy who's scoring like 4 or 5 touchdowns every year of his career, whereas you look at Gronk and Reed, who I think both, if they play 15 games, can, push for, 8 to 14 type touchdown numbers, which is really what I want from my tight end. Avoiding Reed, I just can't ever stop him. No? You don't want him?
Oh, sorry. No, as far as Kelce, though, his touchdown rate is just so abysmal. Like 4.5% is his career touchdown rate. I think the NFL average last year was 7.5. For 2016, Kelce had 3.4. So he did even worse in his career. And the thing with tight ends in this format is I just want to chase touchdown upside. And Kelce doesn't provide that, and you're paying. I just can't do it. He posted 500-yard games last year after posting just 3 in his first 46. Rich Rebar of RotoWorld just created his tight end notebook, and he just ethered Kelce. The reason why not to draft him at his ADP and why he's like one of the most risky picks in the first few rounds. And I couldn't agree more. Kelce's someone I don't have much of.
Yeah. And it's, you're not getting that 100-yard bonus that you're getting on DraftKings that made Kelce so appealing, like during that stretch, because you weren't betting on him to score a TD, but you were, because it just kept happening, sort of betting on him to go for 100.
So I think one thing with Kelce that's interesting is that I think it's one of those traps where people love the player even if the situation isn't as ideal as you would like it to be. Like if you could put Travis Kelce on the Saints, or I mean obviously that's ideal, but on a different team that Alex Smith isn't the quarterback on, people would probably be his ADP would probably be worth it. But his talent is so enticing to people that I think people can get carried away. Like I like him more than you guys, but I also have limited expectations, and that's why I have one share of him where he went. And last pick in the 3rd round, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I think that's where he should be going, is late 3, early 4. I think he should be closer to Jordan Reed than he is. I think Reed is sort of tagged as a guy as quote unquote more of an injury risk than Gronk, which may or may not be true, but I think that's baked into his price tag. With Deshaun Jackson gone, with Pierre Garçon gone, with Terrell Pryor being a new target, I don't think there's any reason to think that he's not going to have more targets, per game than he's ever had with Kirk Cousins. So, when healthy, go ahead.
The healthy thing is, I think the concussions they're real. I mean, he's never played 16 games in a season in his career. Everyone's worried about one concussion. He's done. I agree that him and Crowder are the returning targets for Cousins. I mean, obviously, I agree. That's just a fact. But as we've learned, not all people agree with facts. But Doxson and Pryor, in my opinion, would be better red zone threats than Garcon and Jackson. So I wonder if that could affect his touchdown upside a little bit.
Do we think Dotson's actually gonna be a thing?
If he's healthy, I loved him coming out. Apparently, I just like guys to get hurt, though.
Yeah, fade your advice. Tyler, what are you doing with Reed?
I love Reed. I'm just, unfortunately, at that 3-4 turn, I'm normally grabbing running backs or wide receivers because the value there is just great. But Reed's not a bad purchase there. He's averaged 7.8 targets per game over the last 2 years, led all tight ends in PPR points per game over that period. He's got a hefty 75.8% catch rate, which is pretty great for a tight end. And he's easily a choice over Kelsey for me, but I don't have a ton of exposure.
So here's a question for you guys. I think on MFLs, I think tight end is the hardest position because, after some of these top guys, you're kind of like, I don't really want many of these guys. They're going to have a few big weeks, but so many of these guys put up duds. What's your general tight end strategy? I've been going a couple more higher end guys. I have a lot of Reed Eifert teams or Jimmy Graham, Olsen teams, stuff like that.
Dude,
are you guys trying to
Reed
get
and Eifert on the same team?
Are
you insane? I said you put Reed and Eifert on the same team. Are you insane?
This way, when I'm number one in tight end points after 3 weeks, and then I don't score another tight end point the rest of the season, I can look back at the good times.
Yeah. Well, that kind of rolls into what I'm doing at tight end is if I take a Gronk or a Reed, then I'm hoping to get sort of a boring, sex with pants on kind of tight end later, like a Jason Witten or an Antonio Gates, so that a dude who I think is going to get me, 14 plus games and catch a few passes, maybe like a CJ Fedorowicz or something. But I definitely wouldn't pair Eifert with Gronk or Reed just because of, the injury concern for those guys. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar vein where I'm actually trying to aggressively grab one of those first 6 tight ends, guys that I know I can get guaranteed production from. And if I were to grab one of the more injury-prone ones, I'll probably grab another one in that 7 to 12, 7 to 15 range, a little earlier than I would if I grabbed like Greg Olsen. I might wait a little later for a tight end too, versus a Reed or someone.
Yeah, and I like Olsen too. I think Olsen's sort of going. I wouldn't say I'm stoked about him, but I think he's going where he should be going. Do you guys have any strong feelings on Olsen?
I mean, Olsen led tight ends and targets last year. He had the most deep targets in the NFL for tight ends. He's a big play guy down the field. The question is, how much does a Samuel and McCaffrey affect his role? I mean, he ran 56% of his routes out of the slot, and McCaffrey and Samuel are going to be spending some time there too. So, but he's the veteran. He's the best option they have. So I think it limits a little bit of his upside, but I think he's still about as safe as it gets at tight end.
Yeah, I think he's still got that ceiling that's worth pursuing. He had 7 top 6 weeks last year, tied with the most with Kelsey. He had 10 top 12 weeks, second behind only Rudolph. The thing that hampered Olsen from hitting that ceiling was his low touchdown rate, only 2.3%. That's super low. He has a 5.2 career. He should see a big boost, I think, in that area. The thing with Cam is they got him all these short targets to pursue, and I don't think Olsen's role will really change, where he's that sort of deep route, as Elliot mentioned, where he had 2.09 yards per route run last year. That was the 4th highest, and 11.8 ADOT, which is pretty deep for a tight end of his stature. For reference, Kelsey had a 6.9 ADOT. I think consistency is on his side, where he had 13 out of his 15 games from week 1 through 16, where he had at least 7 targets. That's just dependable volume you can count on. And I think that's very fun in the 5th round.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And if I'm if I've got 4 running backs in a row or 3 running backs and a wide receiver, then that's kind of where I want to take, Olsen. When I feel comfortable with my running backs through 4 rounds, then I'm okay grabbing Olsen there, because I feel like I'm better off getting, wide receivers late than running backs late. But
running backs late is just you're rolling the dice, hoping for injuries.
Yeah, but hey man, tell Twitter that 0RB is different for best ball, and RIP your mentions. So
I like having my mentions RIP. So I may do that after this podcast though.
I wish you the best of luck. I'm staying out of it at this point. Graham is the weird one for me. Like I'm not sure if I think I might have like a share or 2 of him. I can't really decide if I want him that high. I think the upside is there, but I also feel like I'm relying on sort of a small Seattle sample size. He didn't necessarily entire season last year. He fell off a decent amount at the end of the season. And that bothers me for, his consistency. But I do at the same time think Russell Wilson's going to bounce back. So I'm okay with Graham, but I'm not excited about him. Do either of you have a strong take on Graham? I mean, are you excited to take him where he's going? I was surprised that he ended up being the tight end 5, honestly.
I mean, after Olsen, I mean, who do you feel good about, Tyler Eifert or Kyle Rudolph? I mean, I would say that I know a lot of people love Kyle Rudolph, and I'm not knocking him at all. But I'm just saying, like, Graham's also the sexy name. You know what I mean? Like, people will never get away from those Saints days when they think Jimmy Graham. So I think that's always going to affect his ADP sound. I mean, when he got traded to Seattle and everything said target share is going to go way down, people were still drafting him in the 1st and 2nd round. People love Jimmy Graham, and I mean, I get it. He's got huge touchdown upside. He's a fun guy to watch. He can make plays, and he had some big games last year. I like him. I wish he was going 12 picks later than he was, but I don't hate him where he's going.
Tyler?
He's my second, or he and Gronk are both of my most owned tight ends. So apparently I like him a lot. The thing with Graham that I'm concerned about is we keep hearing that Seattle wants to get back to their heavy run game that they've been doing the last 4 or 5 years prior to last year. That has made me pump the brakes on drafting him heavily. But early in the season, I was getting
your exposure, by the way, and you were getting him at like pick 78, though. So
right.
you were getting him where Elliott wanted to be getting him.
Yeah, I was hammering him back then. He had 8 top 12 weeks last year. He's got a great quarterback to work with in the red zone. He led all tight ends in 13 end zone targets per Mike Clay. The thing that worried me last year with him was the torn patellar tendon. But he played all 16 last year, so I think that's a rearview mirror concern. Tight end 5 is kind of surprising, though. I didn't realize his ADP would climb that high.
Yeah, though I would say he definitely faded end of season last year. I think he looked a little slower. I mean, obviously that's just hyperbole, anecdotal, but though I think the entire Seahawks team just kind of looked slow at the end of last season. But
how much do you think? Sorry, but how much do you think that his big stretch plays into people's mindset? Like, I think right now what a lot of people remember is DFS, right? So you're talking about Travis Kelce's big stretch. You talk about Jimmy Graham's big stretch, and people are like, he had those monster games that I'm chasing. Like, these are the games I want, and I know that he can do it.
Yeah, and it was like a 6-7 game stretch for him last year where he looked fantastic, and then sort of fizzled out a little bit. But like I said, the entire team sort of fizzled out a little bit. But I think feasibly you can argue that he should be healthier and Wilson should be healthier, and therefore a repeat, if not better, is a possibility. I just don't think you're going to get. I think this is kind of where he's going to be. I mean, Tyler, do you think he's going to get more than that?
No, that 100 seems like a hard cap for him. I agree with you there, especially with them trying to become more run focused. 100 seems kind of at the high end.
Yeah, and I think I value him and Eifert sort of similar in that I think they're a lower target upside, higher, high touchdown upside. They can still put the big plays together, but I think a guy like Kyle Rudolph is going to get more targets than both of them.
So what I just told you about Kyle Rudolph, the reason I have less Kyle Rudolph than I should is because I remember I was all in on him last year and he played Detroit and he caught like one pass for 3 yards. And then now I hate Kyle Rudolph.
Dude, that was like the 1 week I didn't play him just because everyone else was playing him.
I missed out on cashing like all my tournaments because Kyle Rudolph didn't get 2 points or like 3 points, and that's how many I needed out of him. So Kyle Rudolph was on my shit list last year. But like that's what I mean. Like I'm admitting that I'm being an idiot. Kyle Rudolph is a great value. He got 120 targets. Pat Shermer's offense feeds the ball to tight ends. Sam Bradford likes looking at tight ends. We've seen him have high touchdown upside. He's a talented player. Best red zone threat that Minnesota has. But in my mind, I'm like, that motherfucker cost me money. I don't want Kyle Rudolph. So, but I think everyone has that player where despite the fact that they know, I should get this guy on my team, Kyle Rudolph for some reason is that guy for me that I'm like, damn it, I don't have any shares, but that's why, because he did that to me last year.
Yeah. I mean, I like Rudolph. He's my third or fourth highest owned tight end. I think he's, that drop from Eifert to him is nice. I think he's just super safe. Though I think if Bradford gets like benched, Teddy comes in or something like that happens, I think that like crushes him. But I don't think that's all that likely this year. Tyler, are you a Rudolph guy? It seems like everyone's sort of in on him. There are a few people out there that do not want him.
I'm kind of lukewarm. Last year I had him rated as tight end 26, and he told me to go after myself. Rudolph just fucking went off as the number 2 tight end last year, and I had zero exposure across like 50-some leagues. So I'm with you, Elliot. I'm not a fan of Rudolph. But this year, I don't know. He's got the easiest strength of schedule for tight ends per Scott's DFS. He had a 22.4% target market share with Bradford under center. Led all tight ends in top 12 weeks. Like, there's certainly a reason to pursue him. 24 targets inside the 20. Only Jordy Nelson had more. 10 targets inside the 10. That was 6th in the NFL, and he led all tight ends in that. So those are like valuable targets we should be pursuing. I just am not a fan. I can't explain it. I think it's like he had 83 catches for 840 yards. He's gonna catch it and do nothing.
Well, oh yeah, he's a fucking totem.
He just better be in the end zone.
That man is like the definition of catch and fall. But like he falls forward because he's tall.
Yeah.
But
get the extra 3 yards.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely, when you look at him compared to like the 6 guys going before him, he's nowhere near as talented. And he's probably not even as talented as like the 6 guys going after him. But I think he's going to get, I don't see much change in his target volume. And I'm always happy to buy target volume, even if a guy is just going to catch it and fall down. And I don't think Bradford's going to suddenly change his style and start, like, there's this talk in the off-field or the off-season that he's going to throw downfield way more to Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen and this stuff. And it's like, Bradford has never done that. So that's not, even if they want it to happen, it's not going to happen. And
that line's not giving him any time to do that.
Well, the Vikings are also liars. You remember last year they were talking about how Laquan Treadwell looks like Michael Irvin in camp and how he's just going to dominate and they're going to run this post route with North Turner and they're going to bring back the old school Cowboys offense and Laquan Treadwell is going to be the greatest player that has ever touched the earth. And then he never even played.
Dude, the worst part about Treadwell was that he didn't even play in the preseason. Like, fuck.
Yeah,
Like,
I had him against Seattle because I was like, this guy's got to play some. He's going to be a little bit lower owned. I was excited to try him out, and then no Treadwell for me.
Yeah, no, that was Treadwell, man. Is he coming back this year?
He will do more this year than he did last year. I'm gonna go bold.
I'm glad you.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah, took a strong stance. Really put your foot down, dude. But no, I mean, I think Rudolph's a solid bet to probably lead the team in targets. Maybe Diggs stays healthy for 16 and beats him out, but even so, I mean, if you bet on 100, that's like a solid bet at least. Would you guys agree on that?
100 targets?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a safe bet to me. He had 120 total last year, according to PFF, according to ESPN, 132. I mean, we don't count throwaways, but that means Bradford's looking at him. It's just crazy when you look at his previous targets. I mean, 2015 was 71, 2014 was 34. Tyler would have looked great on his call for wide receiver or tight end 26 in 2014. But yeah, I think it's really one of those. Pat Shurmur's the offensive coordinator and Sam Bradford's the quarterback, and tight ends get involved. And I mean, you guys are saying I think he's a solid route runner. I think he's a solid talent. I don't think he's going anywhere. He's like Jason Witten, where for some reason he's big, slow, and white, but gets open a lot. Like, it doesn't make any sense, but he does it.
He doesn't really even get open though. He's just like bigger than whoever's covering him.
Yeah. I mean, that's a way of getting open, right?
Something like that.
Like, I can't run past like 11-year-olds at this point in my life, but if you throw it up, I'm gonna catch it all day long on him.
Yeah, and he's not. You know, it's not like they're devoting like serious defensive attention, because you would just sort of have like two guys trotting down the field. Like, it's like a waste of speed on your defense.
You're not wrong.
You know, as long as Bradford is quarterback, I think we're looking at a guy who's going to see, 6 to 10 targets a game, except for when you play him in DFS. So I am starting to buy more and more of him because his ADP is not really moving. People just love to hate Kyle Rudolph, no matter what.
Yep, raising my hand right here.
And I hate him, but I'm still going to have
one chair. I have one chair.
Well, it's time to fix that, dude. It's time to fix that. It's PPR, man. Catch and fall is perfect.
Yeah, but I'm not going to put up an argument.
I'll tell you, in the SFB, though, people love Kyle Rudolph. I saw him going like late third, early fourth in some drafts.
Yeah. Well, that's Curtis pushing that train, man. I think Curtis has him like as his tight end 5 or something. I tried to get him to come on the pod with us too, so we could actually have something to argue about on Rudolph instead of all just sort of agreeing that he's going where he should. But yeah. The next guy, though, is the guy who I am like officially out on this season, Henry Hunter. Are either of you buying like Dynasty? I think he's like my favorite buy at tight end. I want to buy Henry, but not in redraft at all. He's in a timeshare at tight end, and he's going as the tight end 8. Do you guys think the corpse of Gates is finally gone? I think he's going to continue to zombie down the field.
Yeah, agreed. I think Hunter Henry is going way too early. This is a case where I don't know. Initially, when I kept seeing Hunter Henry's name near the top of MFL's ADP, I thought it was a case where there was an overlap with the Dynasty ADP, and it just kept trickling into the MFL10s. But he hasn't left. He's still tight end 8. It makes no sense. He had 53 targets last year. That was 27th in the league. 41.8% of his snaps. Antonio Gates ran on 66.7. Like, they used Henry a lot more to block. He had an absurd 15.1% touchdown ratio with his 8 touchdowns on 53 targets. This is a hard pass. I don't know who's buying him here, but I want to get in your MFL 10s.
This dude had 2 games with more than 5 targets. He also had 2 games with 0 targets.
He out-targeted Gronk on the season, and Gronk only really played in 5 games by 11. Like, it's all touchdowns. It's touchdown or bust with him. And I mean, I would say his touchdown chances are going to go down even more now that they have a red zone threat like Mike Williams. But see, we got to bring it full circle. But I mean, Melvin Gordon's there, Antonio Gates is there, Keenan Allen is probably going to be there for 3 games. I mean, you just, you're literally like Tyler said, you're buying that he's going to put up 8 touchdowns again at that price, and it's just not worth it.
What has to happen for him to, so if Gates were to just go down and Keenan Allen were to go down, then he's probably a top 5 tight end, top 6, but you're paying tight end 8 for the possibility of getting that, which is insane.
Well, just draft him and Derrick Henry on every team and hope that anarchy happens in the NFL this year, and then just win everything.
0 RB, tight end 8. Is that the strategy?
I'll just go 0 Henry. That's a strategy.
Yeah. No, I agree. Another guy that I'm sort of weird on, Delanie Walker, I struggle with at his current ADP. I think there is, some problems with the role that he played last year as sort of the slot. He also played out wide. He's a smaller, he's 6'1". He's not the standard tight end. He's not necessarily a big blocker. I think Decker and Corey are going to take away from some of the snaps and targets that Walker had last year, and he only had 102. Last year was a down season for him as is. I think that 133 target year from 2015 is kind of, I don't think we're going to see that again.
I don't want Delanie Walker. I mean, like you said, with him predominantly being in the slot, he averaged 2.01 yards per route run in the slot, which was 4th best, tied with Travis Kelce, and ran 58.3% of his routes from the slot. But Eric Decker is a great slot receiver. Corey Davis is a great slot receiver. Taywan Taylor is kind of destined to be a slot receiver in the NFL. Like, there are too many people doing what he does for me to take him as a top 10 tight end. Like what you said, he dominated out of the slot. That's what he did best. And if he's not going to be in the slot as much, I don't want him.
Yeah. Are you buying him at all?
I've slowed down ever since the Decker signing. You kind of have to. He had a career high 7 touchdowns last year. There's not that touchdown ceiling that was worth pursuing. 7 touchdowns as a career high is not overly impressive. He was top 10 in routes per snap. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, especially with the best red zone threat in the NFL, Eric Decker.
Right. It really hampers Walker's upside, and that's all we're looking for in MFL10s are those big weeks. And if we're going into it knowingly that he has a handicap ceiling, I don't see the point in drafting him where he's going right now, late 8th.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
If you can get Hunter Henry or Kyle Rudolph, I don't know how you even consider Hunter Henry or Kyle Rudolph. I mean, as an actual NFL player, it's not even close. Hunter Henry is the better player. But as a situation, Kyle Rudolph is so much better than Hunter Henry in my eyes.
Yeah. And they're going like 6 or 7 picks apart.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm taking Rudolph over Walker and Henry like 100% of the time. The next guy, though, Bennett's been weird for me. I'm starting to take some Bennett. I don't really know what to do with him. I don't have a strong take on him whatsoever. I think he's like okay where he's going. I think there are a lot of mouths to feed in Green Bay. We saw when a tight end was successful with Rodgers, there weren't also 3 successful wide receivers, whereas I think, Jordy and Devontae and Cobb are, as good, if not better players right now and more familiar with Rodgers than Bennett. So I have a hard time seeing a high target path. Do you guys think that he sort of pushes one of these wide receivers down the chart?
Henry. Just Bennett is. I'm the same boat as you as a question mark for me. Jared Cook had 32 targets in the 3 games during the playoffs. Like that was about the extent of Green Bay going heavily with the tight end. The last time we saw them use one was Jermichael Finley in 2012, where he had 87 targets. 87 targets isn't really worth pursuing here at tight end 10. The thing is, though, Bennett, he was top 10 in yards per route run last year, and he goes from one elite quarterback to another. I don't really know if his play will decrease in that sense and efficiency numbers, but Green Bay also passes the ball. They have the second highest passing play percentage. Obviously, those numbers were skewed from their heavy run problems they had last year, but just the number of times they visit the red zone, I think Bennett could pay off and give you, I don't know, maybe 4 to 6 really high-end top tight end 1 weeks.
Yeah, first off, I realized that I talked about Hunter Henry again after we moved to Delanie Walker, so that's my bad. I just wanted to bash Kyle Rudolph a little bit there. With Martellus Bennett, first off, like we talked earlier with Kyle Rudolph, Martellus Bennett won me $10,000 last year, so the Black Unicorn has a special place in my heart. But I agree that I think he's an enigma because we talked about Jared Cook last year in the playoffs, and everyone's really excited because of the upside that the tight end position they have in their head with what Cook did. But Finley only getting 87 targets, I mean, that's not a huge number. Bennett has never been a high volume guy that has had great success necessarily that I'm going to be chasing it as a tight end 10 price. But he is a talented player. I mean, last year he caught 89% of his targets in the slot. He only ran 40% of his routes from the slot, and Richard Rodgers ran 54%. So maybe if he gets in the slot more, he gets more matchup advantages, and Rodgers can take advantage of him. The thing is, when Rodgers starts falling in love with a receiver like we've seen with Adams and Nelson, they get a lot of touchdowns. So I'm going to have a few shares of him for the upside, but he's not someone I'm overly targeting.
Yeah, and that's sort of the thing too, is like the Rodgers falling in love thing, where Rodgers is like, a little bitch about his players doing what he wants them to be doing. So now that he has 3 receivers who are finally like quote unquote falling in line, I don't know if Bennett's just going to step on the field and, step over one of those wide receivers and sort of take legitimate volume away from them. That's my concern. So, I prefer to buy Cobb than to buy Bennett if I want a cheap piece of the Green Bay offense. I just struggle with where he's going, especially because I like Ebron more. Ertz is another guy who I think is in a crowded situation similar to Bennett. We're looking at an offense that has Jordan Matthews, Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, and Zach Ertz. I think volume is going to be a concern. I'm not a Carson Wentz fan. Are you guys in on Ertz as the tight end 11?
Not until he catches touchdowns. And since he doesn't seem to want to do that, and we add Alshon Jeffrey, that's bold that you said you're not a Wentz guy, because Twitter does not like when people question Philadelphia quarterbacks. But I'm with you. Ertz is kind of like, he's gotten targets. There are a lot of new faces there. I just don't trust him getting in the end zone. In order to have the top tight end weeks, he's going to need to get in the end zone, and I don't trust him doing that.
Yeah, the only time I'll ever play him is in DFS, and it's December. I'm not touching Ertz.
Yep. No, I'm 100% with you. Though I've timed out and picked him a couple times, which really sucks. But I'm not picking much of either of those two, though, because I'm waiting on Eric Ebron. Ebron's a guy I'm probably going to end up having a pretty high exposure to by the end of my MFL10 portfolio. I think he's sort of undervalued. I think there's a lot of people that love to hate him as well. He definitely has issues with drops. That's 100% noted. But this is still a guy who is ascending. I mean, you can watch that he has been better every single year. His catch rate has improved. His yards per reception have improved. His target numbers have improved. His yardage has improved. he's on his way there. And he even rushed for a touchdown last year, which was pretty awesome. So I like him. Even though he's going to have his drops, he's going to have those games where you're watching him, drop a touchdown. You're going to be fucking furious. But with Bolden gone, we saw Marvin Jones was not what they thought he was going to be. Ebron's probably the second best receiver on the Lions, and I'm fine to pay for that. I mean, we're looking at a guy who's probably going to see 100 targets, and he's going much later than a tight end who's going to see 100 targets should go.
I think the no Bolden thing is huge. I don't have the numbers up in front of me, but I remember that when Bolden was out, he played better. I think the thing that's holding the Ebron hype train from running wild is that he had as many rushing touchdowns last year as he did receiving touchdowns.
Well, when you have Anquan Bolden catching 8, who's a guy who was like not even that heavily involved, that hurts.
Yeah, and Golden Tate will get 4.
23.
And Marvin Jones can only perform when they're down like 30 to Green Bay and then puts up 400 yards, and then every tout then says that he's the best play for the rest of the season. Yeah, but I mean, Ebron probably is the second best receiver. If not, then it's Theo Riddick, and then that's a running back anyway. But they're going to use him in the slot. They're going to use him in line. He's not a great blocker, but I think that he's going to be that big body slot receiver that Matthew Stafford's going to look for. And if he gets those Bolden red zone looks, I mean, you're talking about a guy that has 800 yards, 8 touchdowns, 70 catch upside. I think he's a great buy at this point. Plus, if I bash Eric Ebron, Pat Thorman and I can't be friends anymore, so I'm not going to do that. So I'm Team Ebron.
Team Ebron's a good team to be on. Let's all say a little prayer tonight that when Anquan Bolden visits Buffalo on Monday, that he signs with them.
Yeah, I have too many Zay Jones shares to vote for that one, but I just want Bolden to go. Let's put Bolden on like the Jets. Then he doesn't bother anybody.
There you go. Right off into the sunset there.
Yeah. And there's like 3 people in chat saying fuck Ebron. That's like why I want him. Like, no one wants this motherfucker, man.
Team Ebron.
He just like, people are like looking at him and they're like, nah. And then he falls to me and I'm just, I'm taking him. It's just how it seems to happen. But no, dude, I'm starting to do like my depth chart previews for the preseason. And I did the Bills today, and it took me like 3 hours to go through. I'm like looking up some of these guys on their team. Like I have no idea who they are. Like I don't think I've ever looked through a team that more often did I not know who a player was than the Bills this year. And when your Zay Jones is your wide receiver 2 and you legitimately don't have a wide receiver 3, you're in trouble, man.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they're gonna do.
And
who's your wide receiver 3, like Philly Brown or Andre Holmes or someone?
People love Andre Holmes for some reason.
He's huge. 6'4", like 220.
I just am excited that we're gonna get to use Holmes and Streeter in the preseason. I think that's really what I'm actually excited about.
I mean, according to Twitter, I love 6'4", 200-pound receivers who aren't good like Mike Williams. So I'm all in on Andre Holmes in the preseason.
Well, he doesn't have any herniated discs, so he's not your guy. But no, if anyone's listening and they are down for some preseason, make sure you check out the website, powerpod.com. None of our stuff's going to be free this year. Someone wise once told me, if you're good at something, don't do it for free. So you guys aren't getting any of it for free this year. Sorry. The conundrum, though, with that next group of tight ends sort of like weird to me because it drops off. Well, you have Jack Doyle, who I'm like okay with, but if I don't have a tight end at all by the time I get to Doyle, I'm okay with taking him as my first one, but I'm not stoked about it. Do you guys? I mean, are you guys excited to take an indie tight end?
I mean, that's what it's about.
He's
right?
like my backup guy. Like if I get one of the injury prone guys, I'm very happy with Doyle because I feel like he could provide those tight end 1 weeks. Indy threw to the tight ends 25.5% of the time last year. He just signed a 3-year, $19 million contract. They're going to use him. I think he's a great buy at his ADP in the mid-10th.
Yeah. No, I like him. He just he doesn't get me like diamond hard. You know?
Tight end 13s should not do that for you.
I mean, he's Kyle Rudolph, though, right? It's one of these guys where no one thinks he's very good, but he just is in a good situation. I mean, some people like Eric Swoop.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
But
weird.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'm cool with Doyle as a late end tight end 1 if I built my team up elsewhere nicely, and I feel real good about him if he's my tight end 2, and I kind of he's my safety blanket for like a Jordan Reed that has like the injury history, and I know that Doyle should be there. I remember last year when Dwayne Allen went out that game against Tennessee and Jack Doyle went off. Sorry to pick or point to one random game. It's just random memories pop up of DFS when we talk about one player and how his situation is affected. But I like Doyle. He's just not – he doesn't get me diamond hard, as you would say, either.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how it is. I'm okay with him, though. But then we just, like, drop off. The reason I think the reason I like Doyle a little bit more is because I think the drop-off after him is significant. If you were saying that there were 13 tight end 1s, I think he is number 13. Obviously, that's not possible, but he is where it drops off. That's where Kobe Fleener, OJ Howard. I don't think I will own either of them. I don't draft rookie tight ends in best ball, and I don't draft Kobe Fleener. Do you guys want either of those guys?
I don't want Kobe Fleener. I want Saints tight ends that aren't Kobe Fleener. I mean, so I don't want any Saints tight ends this year, but it's just one of those things where people continue to try to go down this hill with Kobe Fleener, despite the fact that he's not good at football and proves it time and time again and cannot catch. He's on the Saints, and so he's going to get targets, and so we have to take shots on him. I want no parts of Kobe Fleener. OJ Howard.
I'm okay with him in best ball only because there's that volume in that Saints offense that's always worth pursuing. Fleener doesn't block. He led all tight ends in routes per snap, hardly blocking at all. The opportunity is there. He's in year 2 of a 5-year, $36 million contract. The 5th easiest strength of schedule for tight ends. He's not – I'll be honest. I don't have any exposure to him. But
dude, he's been benched.
I can make an argument for
him. I'm not draft. So like in best ball, I don't want players who I think like might not play 16 games for reasons other than injury. And like, that's Kobe Fleener, right? I mean, he could definitely be replaced.
Josh Hill was out snapping him for most of the season last year.
Yeah.
He's not good at football. Like that's like, it's a huge issue. And even when he does get open, he then drops it.
No, dude, here's the thing. There's like basically I guess you would call it a rumor. I don't know. There's been talk in like some beat stuff and some stuff from like when he was in college that he's like scared to get hit. And he's not really even like a fan of football, but like he's getting paid so much that he's just gonna like keep playing. And you'll see it. Like when that dude is like going up for a ball and people are coming, that thing is getting dropped. And it happens. So I don't think it's like a rumor. I think that shit is real.
So one thing I'll say with OJ Howard, because I have a couple shares of him when he falls. And I love him in Dynasty. I think he's got Gronk-like upside long term. He's an elite blocker. He's got elite athleticism. He needs to develop a route tree a little bit, but great with the ball in his hands, can get vertical. James Winston has relied on his tight end since college. He threw the ball a ton to Nick O'Leary. He relied on Cameron Brate last year. He's never had a tight end with the talent of OJ Howard. I think there are going to be a few weeks where he just has a couple monster plays and monster games, which makes him appealing to me as a tight end 3 in MFL. Now, at that ADP, I probably wouldn't take him, but I've been seeing him fall more and more in some of these drafts. I think I got him like the 17th round and something where I kind of wanted to take a shot, and I thought he had the highest upside of any player on the board. I generally agree with your rule about the tight ends, but I think because O.J. Howard can actually block, he's going to be on the field more and have more opportunities than most rookie tight ends typically do.
Yeah, I agree with Elliot. The weird thing is I've seen him also fall to that 17th, 18th round where his ADP is early 12. It's puzzling how differently he could go from draft to draft.
I think he might be like the most auto-drafted. That's what I think might be happening.
I've timed out and grabbed him once.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to split up. I don't want a lot of exposure to him or Great, but I do want some to both. So I'm trying to go 50-50 between the two.
I'll probably end up with 0 Howard. I can't do it on the rookie tight ends. If a rookie tight end finally like explodes as a rookie, then I'm okay with letting it happen.
John, I want you to draft one share of O.J. Howard if he's in the 18th round or later, just for me.
Well, you can just go find where I timed out and took him. Whatever round that fucking happened in. I have one, but no, I would much rather take Cooper than Howard. We talk about tight ends ascending into their second year. I think Hooper really started to look pretty good towards the second half of last season. This is a team that's not going to be quite as explosive, I think. So they're going to need the tight end to be a little more reliable. And I think, Hooper could probably double his production from last year, and I wouldn't be all that surprised. But I'm not excited about him, but I would much rather have him than Howard in the same ADP.
I think Matt Ryan's only targeted a tight end 80 times or more in a season with Tony Gonzalez. I don't think he's ever done it with anybody else, right? And
tight ends have been trash other than Gonzalez. That's
a fact that kind of disproves my point. But I think the other thing that you worry about is there are a lot of mouths to feed in Atlanta, right? I mean, between Julio Jones and Sanu and Gabriel and Coleman and Freeman, and everyone is saying that Atlanta's offense has to regress. So I think it's interesting that everyone has to regress, but now Hooper's going to take a step up. I think like O.J. Howard, he's going to have a few big games, but I'd look for him to be my tight end 3 if I'm going to play him. I don't want to necessarily rely on him too much.
It's definitely not someone who excites me.
No, my notes were not very flattering for him. I said, someone sell me on him. I did the Fantasy Labs write-ups for the NFC South last year, and we broke down every position, and doing the tight ends for the Falcons was a headache. He had one top 12 week. He led the tight ends in snaps 5 out of 16 games. But he couldn't beat out Levine Toilalolo for snaps, and I'm just very lukewarm on Hooper.
Assume that was a blocking thing, because Shanahan runs a lot of those really tight closed sets. I don't think that's Hooper's game. So I mean, if they continue to run the same kind of formations that they were running while Shanahan was there, then Hooper probably doesn't do much this year as well. I will agree with that. But I think he's a guy that he was a pretty highly touted, college prospect. So this is when he should be coming into his own, or, everyone was wrong. Elliot, was he a guy that you liked coming out of college?
I wasn't huge on him. I thought he had a nice upside, but not elite upside. He's a big guy that's good with the ball in his hands. He can get open. I'm not sure that the volume's going to be there for him. But he is a talented player. So I know I sound like Tyler right now because I don't really have a strong opinion on him one way or the other. So I kind of want to be convinced, but I lean towards kind of an avoid with him.
Fair enough. Would you? The next one is a 100% avoid for me, and that's Julius Thomas. You guys, either of you want him? Because for me, he's like fuck no.
I just wrote pass, period.
Yeah, unless they're time machines and Peyton Manning can come back and he can play with him, I'm good.
And they can And we can time machine him some new like ankles.
Oh,
All right. Yeah, I would much rather have Jason Witten. Speaking of people with, aging joints, I would still rather have Jason Witten. I think we saw that Dak likes Witten. He definitely played that safety role. And it helps that Dak's mobile while Witten is sort of, plodding down the field. I think that helps him. So he's safe. I think, he's going to play 16 games. He's still the starter. He's still a good blocker, so he's going to be on the field. They want to run the ball. The play action's there. He's not going to have huge upside. He's definitely just like a safe player. He's going to catch the ball and he's going to fall down. He's used in the red zone. He wasn't a big red zone threat last year, but I think 80 to 100 targets is pretty safe for him, and that's – I feel like he's one of the only guys in this range that you can say – I think he's going to get 80 to 100 targets. And I don't see that for pretty much from Fleener to Jesse James, in that 14 to 24 range other than Witten.
First off, Jesse James sounds like he should be a porn star, not a tight end. But Jason Witten, he's probably the least sexiest pick you can make in all of fantasy football. And I think that's why he falls every year. But if you can pair him with Jordan Reed, for example, and hope that you get 12, 13 big games out of Jordan Reed and knowing that Jason Witten's just going to play the other ones, I feel comfortable with that because I know he's going to play. He's an Iron Man. He's always on the field. And like you said, he's going to get 80 to 100 targets. And he's gonna get you enough each week that if you pair him with one of the top guys that has those huge ceilings, your tight end position is going to be good.
Yeah, he's had like 90-plus targets in I think 8 straight seasons or something. The problem is he's just a baseline production guy for me. He had, I think, 5 games with 50 yards receiving or more. Like, that's not a lot. He had 2 top 6 weeks. The only way he's ever on my rosters are when I go 3 tight ends, and I go super risky with them for some reason. I just don't have a lot of exposure.
And I don't think that he has a huge ceiling. I don't think he's getting us 100-yard weeks and that kind of thing. But I don't really think there's a whole lot of ceiling for any of the tight ends in this area. You compare him to a Julius Thomas, a CJ Fedorowicz, a Cameron Brate. I think they're all kind of catch and fall, 50 to 70 yard, maybe a touchdown type guys. Who do you see that has more upside in this range, Tyler?
Fedorowicz, easily. I'm taking him over like the last 5 tight ends we've mentioned.
Yeah, and I like Fedorowicz too, but do you think he really has like that much more upside than Jason Witten?
Yes, there's a ceiling with Fedorowicz. I don't see one with Witten. Witten, I could see getting 6 for 80 and a touchdown maybe 1 week out of the 16.
Oh, man.
Now, here's my question with Fedorowicz, though. The Houston Texans got rid of the worst quarterback that's ever graced the football field this past season. And Brock Osweiler just dumped everything to the tight end. So if we take that away, how high of a ceiling do you think he has?
I think there are
remains to be seen.
I don't know what just happened.
So, go ahead, Jai.
No. I was just saying. I think there are target concerns without Osweiler. That's, and then it is on you to defend your boy Tyler, because I'm not going to cape up for Fedora tips.
Okay, I just thought that there's at least the potential of a ceiling where we see Witten on the decline. I don't think we see any room for him to improve really in that offense. Fedorowicz with year 1 with this new quarterback, I think he could be a great check down option for him. I know Osweiler checked down way too much for him. Fedorowicz led all tight ends in targets per route run because he just constantly saw volume. But that's the thing I'm chasing is volume. And if we've seen before, Bill O'Brien isn't afraid to make the tight end part of their offense. I think there's a chance where Fedorowicz puts up more usable weeks than the last 5 guys we talked about, which is why I'm pursuing him.
Do you want Savage or Watson to be his quarterback?
Oh, Watson.
Okay. Tyler, you and I are friends.
Yeah, there we go.
One of the guys I like later, and this is not Jets bias. If you know anything about me, I think Jets players are terrible. But Austin Seferian-Jenkins, I think, is a guy I'm taking a shot on late. He's averaging as the 28th overall tight end. I mean, there's a chance that he comes back from his suspension and he does nothing. But I think a lot of people are lower on him because of the Changeli offense, where he didn't even know a tight end was an NFL position. And then we have Johnny Morton coming in from New Orleans, and New Orleans system has obviously, we talked about with Fleener, propped up tight ends. Seferian-Jenkins was a very talented player coming out of college. Second-round pick. 2 years ago, he was second in the NFL in yards per route run, where he averaged 2.35, only behind Jordan Reed, actually ahead of Rob Gronkowski on the season. Now, Gronk obviously had a higher target, was on the field more, and that probably is why that happened. But we've seen Jenkins flash big upside. He's going to be the Jets' best red zone option with no Decker, the greatest red zone threat of all time, according to some. I think that he's got upside. He's got touchdown upside, and he could end up being the second option on a team that is going to be trailing a lot. So I think Jenkins is a guy I want to take some shots on late.
He could end up being the first option. Team sucks, dude.
Dude, you're being so nice. I think sucks is this team is like the little Giants, where like I think every time they score like a touchdown, it should count as 3, and then we could see if they can make the playoffs or not. Because I don't know if they would.
Seriously. No, seriously. But no, Go ahead, Tyler.
I feel bad for Forte finishing his career there. That's terrible for him.
And they can't even cut him because of the way that he structured his contract. Like jokes
stuck in no man's land.
Jokes on you, dude. You pushed your guaranteed money so he couldn't cut you, and now we fucking blow.
The best is Brandon Marshall was the one that convinced him to get there, and then he's like, "Yeah, no, I'm out of here."
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, Brandon Marshall was kind of bad last year, but that's another subject. No. So Evan Ingram, Jared Cook, 2 guys I do not want in the least at all. Do either of you want them?
Nope. I do not want either.
Yeah. We touched on Brait. Brait's fine. Jesse James, I think, is like a guy I'm okay like if I'm desperate. But I'd rather have Gates than him by far. Do either of you want James over Gates?
No, Gates is clearly the better option. Jesse James in the 10 games without Ladarius, he averaged 4.3 targets and 7.2 PPR points.
Yep.
4 targets and 7 points.
I will forever be tilted by Jesse James week. Like Scott and I on the pod went on like a rant on why Jesse James should like never be played in DFS football in 2016. Like that he was just not a tight end option. And then like the 1 week Evan Silva fucking touts the dude, he like saves himself with a touchdown, and like he's like 60% owned. It was just like the most tilting thing in the world, and he ended up being like the tight end 6 or 7 or something.
Now, do we know why that happened?
Touchdowns.
No, he only last year his best game was 6 catches for 43 yards and a touchdown. That was his best fantasy game. Do we know why that happened, though? John, you answered the question a minute ago. They played the Jets, and the Jets are terrible. So everybody against the Jets. I mean, Sammy Coates had 3 touchdowns last year against the Jets. So other than if Jesse James plays the Jets, do not play Jesse James and do not own Jesse James.
No thanks. I would much rather have Eli Rogers, who is going in like the 18th, 19th, 20th rounds, than Jesse James. Not even remotely close. And then I think Charles Clay is interesting. I wasn't really interested in him at all until I started looking at the Bills roster. And I think there is a path to him actually having serious involvement if he can hold up, because there's not really anybody else to catch the ball on the team. I mean, have either of you guys really thought about Clay? I really haven't thought about him at all until this morning when I was going through their depth chart.
No, I feel like he's like a perennial afterthought in fantasy, where you look at a bye week fill in and regular redraft seasonal leagues. That's about it.
Yeah, but I think I'm okay buying him as a tight end 3 now that I realize they have no one else on the team. Literally no one else on the team.
Yeah, I mean, he had the one big game against Miami last year where he caught 8 passes for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had 3 straight weeks of touchdowns in the last 4.
Yeah.
But he didn't get too excited other than the fact that if Sammy Watkins goes down, it's anyone's guess who's going to get the targets. They're going to have to throw to somebody.
Oh, if Sammy goes down, that team is like dead.
How exciting is week 1 Jets Bills? That is going to be a barn burner.
Well, I mean, you play Sammy Watkins.
And LaShawn McCoy. That's true. I'll shut up.
But no, I mean, I think Clay is a little more interesting than we give him credit for. He's definitely not a guy that I want to run out and draft, but you can get him in the 20th round. If you missed on tight end, I would rather have Clay as a tight end 3 than rush to get someone like Jesse James or Jared Cook before someone else takes them. If you had to pick, I know ASJ is your guy, Elliott in the late rounds. Tyler, if you had to pick someone from after Fedorowicz as your favorite late tight end, who would it be?
I'm switching to tab 2 over here because it cuts off at tight end 25 on the screen. But my initial answer is Antonio Gates. I'm fine with chasing that touchdown upside with him. It sounds a little I don't know. It sounds he's only fine on my roster as like a tight end 3 where I've got someone like Witten where I just need the potential for a score. Like, I don't know, let's go get those touchdown weeks. Let's let him get the record. I'm fine with chasing him there. He doesn't block. He's just going to be out there for the red zone and touchdown opportunities. I think he's fine for a round 20 pick.
I agree with Tyler. I think this is one of the hardest things to talk about right now. We're talking about tight end 3s.
Yeah.
To stand on a hill for a guy right now, you're really starting to grasp at straws to make an argument for some of these guys.
Yeah, but I would say Gates is a guy I'm okay with as my sole tight end 2 with a Reed, a Kelsey, or a Gronk. I'm okay with that.
There's going to be some week where they're trying to get him to break the record too, where they just force feed him the ball.
Right, and I think that I'm okay with Gates as like my quote unquote insurance policy for these guys. Because if I'm taking a Reed, a Kelsey, and a Gronk, I'm expecting 12 startable weeks where they're going to start over essentially any other tight end that I take. So I have no reason to reach for, a Bennett and Ertz and Ebron that these guys, unless Ebron falls, then I'm just auto-clicking him as, like I said. But I have no reason to expect them to start over these guys. So I'm okay waiting to get a Fedorowicz or a Witten or a Gates. It's not sexy, but Mike Beers has run some numbers that if Gronk was going to play 15 games, that you should just take him and no other tight end. So it's an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah, but then if Gronk plays 6 games, then you can't really win.
Right, and that's why you take Gates and just get boring production for the other 10. But I mean, it's definitely all about upside. You don't want to have Gronk on or Kelsey or Reed, any of them on more than 25, maybe 20% of your teams. I think they're all dangers because you're taking a tight end so high. That's a lot of equity to pay for a onesie position. But if I had to pick a guy who I'm starting to take in drafts that's essentially off the board, you can get Gary Barnidge as in the 20th round. And he's not on a team yet, but I think he will be signing with a team soon. Or Jermaine Gresham. Those are sort of the two
That's a good pick.
That I'm in for on the 20th. I probably prefer Gresham more for now. But as Barnidge starts to visit teams, then he'll be a little more on my radar. But Gresham's a guy I definitely am okay taking as a tight end 3 if I really need one in the 20th round.
I got to ask you, since we're talking tight ends, what are you doing as the resident Maryland man? What are you doing in Baltimore?
Dude, such a disaster. I mean, I think Ben Watson starts week 1, but what does the starting tight end mean for Baltimore? It's going to be gross this year. And they really, I mean, you have 3 wide receivers who they plan to actually use. Macklin's going to be the wide receiver 1. Wallace is going to be the wide receiver 2. Perryman's going to be the wide receiver 3. They've added Woodhead, who I'm not as stoked on as most of Twitter. But I also don't think Baltimore's going to be a very good team. So I'm not real excited to run out and grab a tight end who probably doesn't have huge touchdown upside in that offense. They like to run the ball at the goal line. Even if Ben Watson's the starter, Crockett Gilmore is going to fall into 3 or 4 touchdowns, and that's going to ruin him too. But I could also see them signing Gary Barnidge too, and then it's just a total clusterfuck.
I have a couple shares.
Are you taking any in 10s?
Am I taking what?
Are you taking any in 10s?
Any Baltimore tight ends?
I've thought of the idea of Ben Watson from time to time, which is why I'm asking.
No, I wouldn't touch Baltimore tight ends in 10s.
I think I've taken Watson a couple times in the 20th round.
If you're taking a Baltimore tight end, it has to be Watson, but I'm not very excited about it at all. Because I legitimately think they could sign. If Watson comes into camp and shows signs of maybe not being healthy, then I would not be surprised at all if Baltimore signed Gary Barnidge.
So here's a Gary Barnidge question for you. Let's say he signs with the Steelers, who absolutely should sign Gary Barnidge. Where would he be as a tight end for you?
He'd be ahead of Jesse James, that's for damn sure. Yeah, I mean, he'd probably be up there with Brayton Fedorowicz. In the 150 ADP range.
Yeah, I agree.
I could argue that O.J. Howard, Austin Hooper, because we've seen him produce.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he'd be a top 20-ish, maybe better tight end for sure. So yeah, I mean, you're getting him super cheap right now. Essentially, don't have to pay anything for him. So I'm taking some shots at possible high-end production.
He's too good to be out of the NFL with too many teams needing tight ends. He's
going to get signed.
You just hope it goes. That's the definition of playing roulette, though. You're talking about picking up a guy that isn't on an NFL team. You have no idea what his situation is going to be like, and you're just hoping for the best.
Right. Or he says, I want to play for a contender, and he signs with the Cowboys, and he's not going to start over Witten.
You want roulette? I'm on a dynasty tight end premium league where my 2 starters are Kobe Fleener and Gary Barnidge.
That's good. That's
I'm playing with fire right now.
Yeah.
Well,
those are big balls right there.
Yeah, you actually only have 1 starter, and he's not even on an NFL team yet.
I'll be making some trades.
Yeah,
I could see Gary Barnidge signing with the Patriots. Dwayne Allen getting cut, Gronk getting hurt, and then Gary Barnidge being tight end 1.
I hear that Dwayne Allen might not make the team.
Yeah.
I'm not touching that dude. No chance. When someone is on the shit list on the Patriots, no thanks. No way. No, let's talk before we get off. Let's talk Eric Swoop. Why is this a thing? Are either of you on this Swoop train that's starting to pick up steam?
I'm stashing him in dynasty leagues, yes, but I'm not doing anything with MFL10s or expecting anything in the near future. He's on a high-powered offense with Andrew Luck at the helm. He's worth a stash.
He's absolutely worth a dynasty stash. But why is he in redraft conversation?
That eludes me.
Because people get excited about the Colts, like Tyler was talking about, targeting tight ends 25% if Jack Doyle goes down, or even the Colts proved that they could. Doyle was a successful player last year, and he was a tight end 2 on the team. So people get excited, and Swoop is a decent athlete. And so we're just all aboard the Swoop train. And
I mean, are we really handcuffing tight ends? Is that a thing?
I'm not doing this. I need to make this very clear. I have no shares of Swoop. I don't want Swoop. I'm with Tyler. I'll take him late in Dynasty and hope for the best. But I'm just trying to think of an argument for why to take him. And the best I have is that Colts target the tight ends a lot. They've shown they can have 2 tight ends be fantasy relevant. He'll probably have a big week. Maybe you're hoping for a couple, and then if Doyle gets hurt, he could shoot up the rankings. I'm grasping here.
I mean, if you're expecting like a Jack Doyle repeat, I feel like you're really sort of grasping for straws.
So he played like 6 snaps in 2015. If we count 2016 as Swoop's rookie year, his yards per route run were the 2nd highest over the last decade. Like, there's a reason to get excited for him. He makes big plays. He's a popcorn kind of tight end where you want to watch him excel. But
yeah,
calm down and redraft. Calm down.
Yeah, but there's lots of tight ends that we get excited like this. You know, these athlete, you know, they can dunk a basketball kind of guys, but it doesn't mean that they always pan out. I mean,
Mo Alley Cox. He was very good at basketball. So
you know, we had the Tony Moiakis, the Darren Wallers, the Austin Safarian Jenkins. I mean, there's as many examples of these guys fizzling out after a few big plays as there's more examples of these guys fizzling out after a few big plays than there are of them, you know, becoming like successful long-term tight ends. But he's at Dynasty stash 100%, absolutely worth doing, but redraft is dumb. We agree?
Amen.
All right. Fair enough. You guys got any last-minute thoughts on tight ends? Anyone that we did not hit on? I think we got hit on most everybody, or anyone that you just want to, you know, give a hot take on before we get out of here. Elliot?
I mean, I'm Mr. Hot Take apparently, but we've covered just about every tight end you can cover. Rico Gathers, since we want to talk about college basketball players. I mean, they had good things to say with him when he was in shorts, right? And he was a big boy and a rebounder at Baylor. So maybe Jason Witten, the wheels finally fall. Even though Jason Witten doesn't even have wheels, I don't know what he plays on, but the wheels are off with Jason Witten, and it's Rico Gathers time.
He plays on like those early wheels that were like actually square. You just like rolled over, you know, like the stone blocks. But he gets it done, man. All right, one last question. David and Njoku. Do you guys see him as or Seth DeValve? Do you see either of them as like redraft producers? I know people have gone back and forth on them. I'm just sort of avoiding both of them.
Yeah, like you said, avoid rookie tight ends. I love this dude, especially for Dynasty. I have him like almost everywhere, but it's not happening year one, especially with them talking about getting DeValve involved. Stash him in Dynasty. That's about it. Give me the thing is he's going around the time where like the burners are going, like John Ross, Will Fuller, Tyler Lockett, those guys that can give you like a couple top end weeks.
Yeah, or your QB2s.
Yeah, that's too. Yeah.
I noticed he's starting to fall though. And Njoku's starting to fall like the 18th round, 17th round. But I guess what you're thinking is the Browns, they have Kenny Britt. They have Corey Coleman, who's done nothing. I mean, I don't
literally
care about
nothing.
Yeah, literally nothing. I mean, he beat Sharice Wright once, and now all of a sudden he's still the greatest ever.
He beat him once, and Wright fell down once.
Yeah.
Listen, the man has 2 good career plays. Don't take away one of them. But I guess the thing with Njoku is that the Browns are probably going to be down a lot. You know, if he develops some sort of chemistry with Cody Kessler or Deshaun Kaiser, he's got that huge after catch ability that, you know, he could pop some big plays.
But isn't he like the guy that you want to pick up on a waiver wire like week 9 rather than the guy that you want to take in best ball and like just wait for him to get his spot or get his, you know, his shot?
Yes.
If that makes any sense.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
yeah, 100%.
He is, but I'm saying that he's probably going to have a couple big weeks.
I agree, but I think they'll be second half of the season.
So pair him with Jordan Reed, and this way you get 6 games of Jordan Reed, and then hopefully Njoku does something in the second half.
Too much, Elliot. Too much. All right. So, podcast today sponsored by My Fantasy League. MFL10s. If you have not ever played an MFL10, you should. MFL10s.com, MFL10s.com. Sign up. Play one. Tweet at any of us or any of the other guests we've had. We will help you through the process, with some picks. If you tweet us a bad roster, though, we are probably going to tell you that it is a bad roster. Pay attention to what people are saying. It is very easy to get caught up in these and play a million of them. They're a blast. You can easily check your portfolio, watch how you're drafting your guys. We are also going to put together 2 listener leagues. All of the guests that we have had on will be in those listener leagues, for you to compete against. So if you're fans of any of these guys, make sure to rate the podcast, find us on iTunes, give us a review, tweet your review or DM it to the podcast Twitter at PowerHourDFS. And if we only have enough reviews to, fill these listener league spots, then you'll get in. If we have more, then we will randomly choose from the people that have reviewed. If you give me a 4-star review or a 3-star review, fuck you, you're not playing. So check them out. Check out My Fantasy League. If you're doing Dino Leagues as well, they are definitely the best league to run Dynasty Leagues. And find Tyler on Twitter at Tyler Beaker. It's Beaker, right?
Correct. Yep.
There's no way Scott would have ever gotten that correct, and he got it wrong last time. So that's Buecher. Find Elliot on Twitter at Elliot Christ. That's Crist and Elliot with 1 L. And find both of their works on Pro Football Focus and Elliot on his other 6 or 7 websites. And make sure to check out PowerHourPod.com. Check out the preseason package. Of course, we will be in the Slack chat. Both these guys will be in there as well. We will be talking preseason starting soon. 1 more pod left for MFLs, defenses, and general construction. But make sure to listen to all the pods and sign up for some MFL10s. It's been fun, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.